Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Tezvav, Daf 15 of Masechta Beitzah. Friends, it's an exciting day because we're wrapping up the first Perek of Masechta Beitzah. What did you guys think about the first Perek? It was easy, right? It was hard, I think. Anyways, so the first Amud we're going to finish the Perek and also continue discussing things that you're allowed to take out and send to other people on Yom Tif, and then we start the new Perek on Tesvav Mud Beis, talking all about Eruvey tavshilin, which is super interesting, and we're going to get to some other interesting sugyas that we've seen also, Masechta Psachim, like Chatzi L'Hashem, Chatzi Lachem, that sugya. Friends, we're going to get into all these awesome stuff. Let's go weiter. So, we're on Daf Tesvav, about 6-7 lines into the page. Avol lo sandal amasumer. We said in the Mishnah that you're not allowed to send a spiky shoe to your friend on Yom Tif. Okay. Sandal amasumer, my time alo. Why can't you send a spiky shoe to your friend? Mishum ma'aser shaya, because of a story that we had in Masechta Shabbos, where there were people hiding out from, I think, the Romans, and they were wearing spiky shoes, and they got confused. They thought maybe somebody went out and sort of revealed their hiding spot, and it became a whole mess, and people ended up climbing on top of each other and killing each other. It became a mess. So therefore, we don't wear these spiky shoes on Shabbos. Amar Abaye, Sandal Masumar Osul Nailo Umutil Taltalo. Says Abaye, you're not allowed to wear a spiky shoe, but on Shabbos or Yom Tov, but you're allowed to move it. It's not muksa. Alright? Fine. Where am I? You're not allowed to wear it because of that story that happened. Okay? But you're allowed to move it. From the fact that it says that you're not allowed to send it. From the fact that the Mishnah has to tell us that you're not allowed to send the spiky shoe, it means that you're allowed to move it, because if you're not even allowed to move it, then memele you're not going to be allowed to send it. Okay. You're not allowed to send to somebody a shoe that is not sewn. Pshita, obviously, what's useless. Even though it's got these like pegs holding it together, still don't send it out. Rabbi Yehuda says also don't send out a white shoe. Tanya Rabbi Yehuda matir b'shocher v'osir b'lovin. We learn in the Beitzah that Rabbi Yehuda allows you to send a black shoe but not a white shoe. Because they wouldn't wear white shoes. They would only wear black shoes. And therefore, memele, if you're sending a white shoe, you're going to need some black polish, some black whatever you color shoes with, in order to color it black. And you're not going to be able to do that on Yom Tif. So therefore, don't send a white shoe on Yom Tiv. Rabbi Yossi oser b'shachar mipnei shetzarich letzach tzocho. Rabbi Yossi says you can't even send a black shoe because you're going to have to sand it down, smooth it down. V'lo plige, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi don't technically argue. Marki asre. It just was dependent on different customs where they lived. Now Rabbi Yossi lived in Sipori. Where did Rabbi Yehuda live in? Like Yavne or something? I don't know. Where did he live? He's buried near Tzfas, I think. Ba'asri Damar, Bisur L'Sachas, Ba'asri Damar, Bisur L'El. That in Rabbi Yehuda's, where he lived, so the flesh, right, I guess if you're going to make a shoe out of hide, so you're going to have the flesh part, and you're going to have the skin part, like the fur part, so the hair part. So where Rabbi Yehuda lived, so the flesh part was on the inside by your foot, so you didn't have to smooth it down. Because it wasn't externally facing. Whereas by Rabbi Yossi, the flesh part was on the outside, so you had to smooth it down in order to make a smooth shoe. So until that happens, even if it was black, it's not considered ready yet. That's why you would say that it's take, not allowed. Even the black shoes. Okay, that sounds very, very beautiful. Let's go weiter. Okay, so this is the rule. Anything that you can get benefit, or at least this is what we're assuming it means for now, which is that anything that you can get benefit with from it on Yom Tiv, so you could send as a friend as a gift to a friend on Yom Tiv. Rav Sheishes allowed the rabbis allowed people to send tefillin to people on Yom Tiv. Now, Abaye says to Rav Sheshes, but didn't we learn in our Mishnah, Kol Osim Bo B'Yom Tiv Mishalchin also? So doesn't our Mishnah say that only things that you can get benefit from them on Yom Tiv, you can send them, but you don't wear tefillin on Yom Tiv, so why would you send it? So Hachi Kamer, this is what the Mishnah means. Kol Osim Bo B'Chol Mishalchin also B'Yom Tiv. No, what it means is that anything that you can get benefit from during the week, you could send on Yom Tiv. And tefillin we can use during the week. They're ready to go. They're, it's not like they're, it's not like they need to be processed any further. I mean, they're usable as is, so you could send them even on Yom Tiv, right? So, for example, something like, something that right there, that would be usher to, like an actual Isser Torah on Shabbos or Yom Tiv to do, so then you wouldn't be able to send it on Yom Tiv. But something like tefillin, even if you end up putting on tefillin on, it's not like a Isser Midoraisa. We don't put on tefillin because it's already an os, and Shabbos and Yom Tov is an os. But, so we don't need it, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't be an isser if you put on tefillin, and therefore, you could send it even on Yom Tov, even though we don't wear tefillin on Yom Tov. So the way to understand that Mishnah is that anything that you can use during the week, such as these pair of tefillin, you could send on Yom Tov. Amar Abaye says, Abaye tefillin hov asu liyodon neimamu milsos. Says Abaye, well, once we're already talking about tefillin, let's say something about tefillin. Alright, what are we going to say? If a fellow was traveling, okay, with tefillin barosho, okay, and he was wearing his tefillin, very nice. He was traveling and he was wearing his tefillin, and it was Erev Shabbos. V'shaka olav chama. And now the sun is setting on Erev Shabbos, so, you know what happens when the sun sets on Erev Shabbos? It's time to say good Shabbos. So, maniach yodu aleim ad shemagia leveso. So what you do is, you don't have to take them off, also because it's Shabbos, you don't want to carry them. So you can just cover them up, so that it's not, so you kind of cover up the tefillin, because generally don't wear tefillin on Shabbos, but then again, we don't want you to carry them. So just cover them until you get to your house. If you were sitting in the Beis HaMedrash, and the Beis HaMedrash was outside in the field, v'tefillin barosho, and he was wearing his tefillin, v'kiddush olav hayom, and then it becomes Shabbos. Maniach yodo alein ad shemagia leveso. So again, just walk home, but cover them up while you're walking home. Matzav Rav Huna breder Rav Ika. Now Rav Huna breder Rav Ika asks a question that we have another brayso that says, Hayu babaderech, if a fellow is traveling v'tefillin barosho, and he was wearing his tefillin, v'kiddush olav hayom, and it became Shabbos. Maniach yodo alein ad shemagia levaisa samuch lechoma. So he covers them, he covers them with his hand until he gets to the first house in the city. Meaning, whereas Abaye says you can wear them all the way till you get home, this Beitzah seems to be saying that you only wear them until you get to the first house. If a fellow was sitting in the Beis HaMedrash, v'kiddush olav hayom, and it became Take Shabbos, and again, he covers the tefillin with his hands, until he gets to the house that's right next to the, to the first house that's closest to the Beis HaMedrash, but don't go all the way home. Lo kasha, the mintra, had lo mintra. So it depends. If if that first house in the city is guarded, so then leave the tefillin there, sure. But if it isn't guarded, so then you can go home with them. Id lo mintra. But one second, if it wasn't guarded, well then my irya barosho, who cares that he's davka wearing them? Even if you had to pick them off the ground, it would be permitted. As we learned in Masechta Eruvey, a fellow finds tefillin on Shabbos, he can bring them in one pair at a time. So lakasha demintra machmas ganove umachmas kalve, or demintra machmas kalve below mintra machmas ganove. So it depends. If the house is guarded both from thieves as well as from dogs, so then you can leave the tefillin over there. But if the house is guarded from dogs, but it's not guarded from thieves, well then you can take it all the way to your own house. I may have thought to say, well, most of the thieves around there, I guess, were Jewish thieves. Alright, sounds very nice. So there were, actually, truth is, it sounds very not nice. But most of the thieves, I guess, over there were Jewish for whatever reason, but because they were Jewish thieves, they wouldn't be mezalzel, they wouldn't disgrace the tefillin. So therefore, you might think that even though the house is not guarded from thieves, but they're Jewish thieves, so they would leave them alone. So maybe you should leave the tefillin there, kamashmalon, that you can take them all the way home, right? So meaning again, so if the house is guarded from dogs and also guarded from thieves, well then you can leave it in the house. If it's guarded from dogs but not from thieves, you could take it all the way home, even though you may have thought it's Jewish thieves and they would leave the tefillin alone. Kamashmalon, that you could take them all the way to your own house. Hadron Oloch Beya. We will come back to you, Perek Beitzah Shenoda B'Yom Tiv. Alright friends, moving on to the second Perek of Masechta Beitzah. Yom Tiv Shecholios Erev Shabbos. Okay, so if you have Yom Tiv that falls out on Erev Shabbos, very nice. Okay, so Yom Tiv is on a Friday. Okay. Lo Yivashal Batchila Miyom Tiv L'Shabbos. So don't cook on Friday, on Erev Shabbos, on Yom Tiv, for Shabbos, right? So if Yom Tiv is Friday, and then Shabbos is obviously the next day, we don't want you cooking on Yom Tiv for Shabbos. Only cook on Yom Tiv for Yom Tiv. What he can do though is he can cook for Yom Tiv. If there are leftovers, he can eat leftovers on Shabbos. There's nothing wrong with that. But as Rashi points out, don't be tricky over here, right? Don't say, oh, wink, wink, I'm just cooking for Yom Tiv, and you're cooking twice as much. No. Cook for Yom Tiv. If there's something left over, you can eat it on Shabbos, but you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tiv for Shabbos on Yom Tiv. Okay. What? I don't know what I just said. You're not allowed to cook on Yom Tiv for Shabbos. Now, what can you do? So tavshilin me'erev Yom Tiv. So what you could do is that on Erev Yom Tiv, on Thursday, so you can cook something, v'somich olav l'Shabbos, and you could rely upon it for Shabbos. Let's go weiter for a second. Beis Shammai Omrim, says Beis Shammai, shnei tavshilin, 2 cooked foods. Ubeis Hillel Omrim tavshil echad, and Beis Hillel says 1 cooked food. V'shavim b'dag uveya she'olav shein shnei tavshilin. And they agree though that if you cook a fish and you baste it with some egg, that could already count as 2 cooked foods. Now basically the idea is, and the Gemara is going to explain sort of what's the goal over here with this Erev tavshilin. But the point is, for now, that you cook either 1 according to Beis Hillel or 2 according to Beis Shammai. You cook cooked foods, and you from Erev Shabbos, and that allows you from Erev Yom Tiv on Thursday, and that allows you then to cook on Friday on Yom Tiv for Shabbos. We're going to see in the Gemara 2 different opinions of like kilu what's going on here, why this works, but that's kilu the idea. So you leave out, so you prepare already from Erev Yom Tiv, let's say according to Beis Hillel, 1 cooked food. And from preparing that already from Erev Yom Tiv, now you can cook the next day on Friday for Shabbos. Achlo o she'avad, if he ate the Erev tavshilin before he had a chance to cook on Friday, o she'avad lo, or it got lost, well then lo yivashal. I'm sorry, achlo o avad, if he ate it or it got lost, lo yivashal olav batchila. Then he shouldn't use it anymore for to be able to cook on Friday for Shabbos. But if he has leftover, so then if there's something left over, and the Gemara is going to explain how much has to be left over, but if there's something left over, then he can still rely upon it for Shabbos, and he can cook based on that Erev tavshilin from Friday for Shabbos. Where do we have a pasuk now? Eruvey tavshilin is not midoraisa, it's only midorabbanon. But nonetheless, where do we have a pasuk that we can rely upon, like an asmachta? So Amar Shmuel da Amar Kra, so Shmuel says that the pasuk says, Zocher es Yom HaShabbos l'kadsho, that remember Shabbos to make it holy. Now in general, Zocher es Yom HaShabbos l'kadsho is Zachreo ala yain. That's how we learn to make Kiddush. But we make an asmachta, we rely upon this pasuk also to teach us the din d'Rabbanan, that Zachreu me'achar shebal ashkicho. So based on what Shmuel is saying, is that basically the idea is, the pasuk says Zachar Yom HaShabbos l'kadsho, that Zachreu, remember it because you might otherwise forget it. And according to this, what it means, that the point of the Eruv tavshilin is to make sure that you give proper respect to Shabbos. Right? That the first day, Friday, is going to be Yom Tiv, and you're going to be so busy preparing for your Yom Tiv Suda, you're not going to give proper respect and proper space and thought to Shabbos. So therefore, in order to have Shabbos to be front of your mind as well, so you make an Eruv tavshilin already from Thursday, from Erev Yom Tiv, so that it'll be, front of mind. So since you would otherwise forget it, remember it. So put out this Eruv tavshilin already so that you're remembering in advance, like, hey, I need to keep Shabbos top of mind and not to forget about it. Okay, my timer. How can we have this Eruv tavshilin? It's funny that the Gemara is asking like my timer because we already just gave one reason, but we're going to see another two reasons. We're going to see Rava and Rav Ashi. So Amar Rava says Rava kadesha yivor mana yafe the Shabbos umana yafe liyom tiv. Says Rava, in this way he'll make sure to have a proper portion for Shabbos, a proper portion for Yom Tiv, and therefore in this sense the Eruv tavshilin comes, is a necessary reminder that you have to put out this reminder to make sure, hey, make sure that you set aside a proper Suda for Shabbos as well as a proper Suda for Yom Tiv. Rav Ashi explains, K'dei sheyomru ein ofen mi Yom Tiv l'Shabbos kavachomer mi Yom Tiv l'chol. So Rav Ashi says actually that it's not about making sure that you're giving proper space to Shabbos and that you don't forget about Shabbos. It's actually so that you don't forget about Yom Tiv. It's that you give proper respect and honor to Yom Tiv. Because if you're busy cooking all day on Yom Tiv for Shabbos, so what does that say to Yom Tiv? You're not super important. I'm going to spend the whole day Yom Tiv cooking for Shabbos. Shabbos is really what's important. So in order to make sure that Yom Tiv gets the proper respect that it needs, so we say that you're not allowed to cook for Yom Tiv on Shabbos. However, what you do is you start cooking for Shabbos already on Erev Yom Tiv, and then Memele on Yom Tiv when you're cooking for Shabbos, it's like you're just continuing what you had already started from before Yom Tiv, right? So meaning, on Yom Tiv, you're not allowed to cook from Yom Tiv on Yom Tiv for Shabbos, because that wouldn't be very respectful for Yom Tiv. But what you do is, you start cooking for Shabbos already before Yom Tiv, and then once already you have that cooked food already from before Yom Tiv, so then you're really just like finishing what you already started, but you're not just, starting all your cooking for Shabbos on Yom Tiv, because that wouldn't be very nice for Yom Tiv. But once already you started cooking kilo on Erev Yom Tiv, so now you're just finishing up, but it's not really stepping on Yom Tiv's toes too much, because after all, you're just finishing up what you already started. You're not like jumping into something new, into, Shabbos preparations on Yom Tiv. You're just completing the preparations that already began the day before. Okay. Tonight, we learn in our Mishnah. So, and then we said also, Kavachomer Yom Tov L'chol. And certainly, if you can't cook from Yom Tov for Shabbos, Memele, you can't cook from Yom Tov for the week. Fine. Tanan, we learned in a Mishnah, Ose tavshil me'erev Yom Tov, v'somich olav l'Shabbos. Okay. So, we said in our Mishnah that Ose tavshil me'erev Yom Tov, that you prepare a cooked food on Erev Yom Tov, v'somich olav l'Shabbos. And then once you prepare the cooked food on Erev Yom Tov, you can rely upon it for Shabbos. Bishlam Rav Ashi, so I understand this according to Rav Ashi. That the whole point is that we want to give proper respect to Yom Tiv. So that we don't say that you're just allowed to spend the day on Yom Tiv cooking for Shabbos. So therefore you have to cook this food before Yom Tiv. So that, so that you're not sort of starting to cook for Shabbos on Yom Tiv and interfering with Yom Tiv, but you're starting before Yom Tiv. Fine, I understand that. Right? So Erev Yom Tiv in, B'Yom Tiv lo. That's why you dafka need to set out this cooked food, to prepare this cooked food for Shabbos, for the Erev tavshilin, before Yom Tiv. So it doesn't, so we make sure to give proper space to Yom Tiv. But according to Rave, who says it's not to make sure that we're giving proper respect and space to Yom Tiv, but rather to make sure that we give proper space to Shabbos. Well, if that's the case, my irya me'erev Yom Tiv. So how come a davka has to be done before Yom Tiv? Afilu b'Yom Tiv nami. Why can't I make the Erev tavshilin on Yom Tiv as well? Before I start preparing my Yom Tiv Suda, right? Meaning, what if it's Yom Tiv morning? I haven't yet started preparing my Yom Tiv Suda. And I'm going to want to make sure that, right, according to Rava, it's to make sure that there's, you're giving proper respect and space to Shabbos. So if that's the case, so then why not just Yom Tov morning, before I start preparing my Yom Tov meal, make it a point to make my Erev tavshilin to say, hey, make sure that I'm also going to be leaving proper, making a proper meal for Shabbos as well, not just for Yom Tov. So why does a davka have to be before Yom Tov begins? Why can't I do it Yom Tov morning also to make sure that I'm making proper food for preparations for Shabbos as well? So Einach Hinami. So the Gemara says, Einach Hinami. theoretically you could, right? Meaning, logically speaking, rationally speaking, you should be able to make an Eruvey tavshilin on Yom Tov morning. However, ela gizera. But they say we don't want you to make an Eruvey tavshilin on Yom Tov morning because Shema Yivpasha, if you leave it to the last minute like that, you might be negligent and not make an Eruvey tavshilin at all. Therefore, we say make it already from before Yom Tov on Thursday. Vitana Maisila Mehacham. We have a Beitzah that Taka brings the source for Eruvey tavshilin from here, which is Eis Asher Tofu Efu Veis Asher Tavashlu Bashelu. That the pasuk says that Shabbos is coming up. That which you will bake. That which you will cook. We learn from here though. We make a drasha kilu Eis Asher Tofu Efu. Only that which you have already baked from before Yom Tov can you then bake for Shabbos. That which you've already cooked and before Yom Tov, can you continue cooking for Shabbos? Mikan, Omar Rabbi Eliezer, from here says Rabbi Eliezer, Ein ofen ela ala afoy, you can only bake that which is already baked, Ve'en mevashn ela ala mavushal, and you can only roast that which is already roasted, kilu, that which you already started roasting the day before. Mikan samchu chacham le'eruvei tavshilin min haTorah. This is the asmachta, this is sort of what we rely upon, where we can see in the Torah about the Eruvey tavshilin, that already, in order to cook for Shabbos, do it based on that which you already started cooking but the day before, i.e. before Yom Tov, in a situation where you need to make an Eruvey tavshilin. Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis Taka taught, there was a story with Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus. It was Yom Tov, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus was in the Beis HaMedrash, and he was giving a shir, the halachas of Yom Tov. Yotzisa kas rishona. So now the first wave of students got up in the middle of the shir to go home to enjoy their Yom Tov Suda. Omar alalu bali patosin. He says, these fellows, they're the first ones to go home to their Yom Tov Suda. They must have big barrels of wine and other things that they want to be drinking. So, okay, let them go and drink drink whatever they're going to drink. Kas shniya amar alalu bali chavios. The next group got up to leave, and he says, all right, these must be the people with sort of regular-sized barrels. Kashlishas amar lalu bali kadin. When the next group got up to leave, he says, okay, these people must have pitchers full of wine that they need to drink. Kasavias amar lalu bali leginin. The fourth group got up, and he said, okay, these must be the people with flasks that they need to drink. Kaschamishas amar lalu bali kosis. When the fifth group got up, he says, all right, these people must have cups of wine that they need to drink. Hischilu kashishis lotzes. The sixth group then got up to leave. Amar lalu bali me'era. He says, these people are cursed because everybody was leaving. Nobody was sticking around for the shir. Nosan enav b'talmidim. He then looked at the rest of the students who were there, hischilu pnei mishtanen, and they were getting upset because they were getting not upset, but they were getting nervous. They were saying, oh, what's going on over here? He seems to be getting angry that we're sticking around. So Amar lohem banai lolachem ani omer. So then he said to the students who were still there, he says, no, I'm not saying that you are cursed. El la'alalu sheyatzu. No, only the people who left. Shemanichim chay olam va'oskim b'chay shah. Because they're leaving the life of worlds, the eternal life, the Torah. And instead they're going to deal with temporary things like drinking pitchers of wine. And then when the shir was over and the final group was, afterwards everybody was getting up to go, he said to them, friends, enjoy. Lechu, go. It's a pasuk in Nehemiah. Go and ichlu mashmanim, eat fatty delicacies, ushesumam takim, and drink geshmake drinks, v'shulchumanus le'nachon, and send portions to somebody who doesn't have. Ki kadosh hayom la'adonenu, because this day is holy to our master. Al te'atzevu, v'al te'atzevu, don't be sad. Ki chedvas Hashem hi ma'uzchem, because the rejoicing of the Eibishter is what gives you strength. Gewaldet. So we say, okay, so that was a very interesting story with Rabbi Eliezer, where everybody got up to leave, and he said, why are all these people leaving? They should be, here to learn the Divrei Elokim Chaim. And then at the end, after the shir, he says, okay, now go and enjoy your Suda. Omer Mai, we said, Shemanichim Chai Olam V'Oskim B'Chai Yishah. So we just said that, these people, why were they getting up? Because after all, they're leaving the life of the eternal life, and they're dealing with temporary life, right? Eating. But one second, isn't rejoicing part of the mitzvah of Yom Tov? So why did they do anything wrong by going to their Suda? Rabbi Eliezer, the time the Amr Simchas Yom Tov Rishus. Well, Rabbi Eliezer is consistent with his position, which is that the rejoicing on Yom Tov is optional. And therefore, because it was optional, so Kilu, they should have really stuck around for the shir, and then only at the end, Kilu, he said, okay, now that we learned, so go and enjoy your Suda, but really the main thing is really the learning. The Tana is we learn in a Beitzah. There's a Beitzah we've seen in Masechta Pesachim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer says, Rabbi Eliezer in Lola Adam b'Yom Tov el Ocha v'Shose o Yoshev v'Shona. Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is that on Yom Tov you got to go all out. You got to go all in. Either you sit and you learn a whole day, or you eat, or you eat and you drink a whole day. Either one. Either you learn a whole day, or you eat and drink the whole day. And therefore, these fellows, if they were learning, they should have been all in the learning afterwards. So he said, okay, now go enjoy. But Kilu, if they were already at the shir, so Memele, that should have been the main thing. They shouldn't be interrupting the shir to go eat. The main thing is the shir, if that's what you're doing. Rabbi Yeshua, whereas Rabbi Yeshua says, Chalkeu chetzu l'Hashem v'chetzu lachem. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua says, divide it in half. Spend half of it for God, learning, and half of it for you, eating. Rabbi Yochanan says, Rabbi Yochanan u'shnei mikrei darshu, and both Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yeshua are learning it out from the same pasuk, or really psukim. Kasuv echad omer atzeres l'Hashem elokecha. One pasuk says that it will be Yom Tov for Hashem your God. V'chasuv echad omer atzeres tieh lochem. Whereas there's another pasuk that says it will be Yom Tov for you. Hakeitzad. So what does this mean? Is it for God or is it for you? Rabbi Eliezer savar okulu l'Hashem okulu lochem. So Rabbi Eliezer says, look, you got to make a decision. Either it's all for God or it's all for you, but it's not a mixture of both. Rabbi Yeshua savar chalkeu chetzu l'Hashem v'chetzu lachem. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua says, no, you could divide it in half. You can take it half, 50% for God, 50% for you. Do it like that. Friends, what do you think? Well, what's your opinion? Are you a more let's try to chaparine both, or are you more of like, let's just choose one thing and go all in on that? What does it mean? And that you're going to send portions to people who it's not fit for, that it's not prepared for? So Amar of Chizda says, of Chizda, Eruvey tavshilin. Well, if somebody didn't set up their Eruvey tavshilin, they can't cook from Friday for Shabbos, from Yom Tov to Shabbos, so you're going to have to send them things. There are those who say, there are those who say, no, what it means is you could send things to somebody who was potter, who didn't have to be setting up an Eruvey tavshilin because he was busy with other things. For example, if he lost an item and he was searching for that item, so he was busy doing that. That's why he couldn't make an Eruvey tavshilin, so that's why you could send him food. But if a fellow should have prepared an Eruvey tavshilin, but he didn't, well then, poshehu, he's negligent, and therefore I guess we don't need to be supplying a negligent fellow. Alright. What does it mean that the rejoicing of God is your strength? Amr Yochanan, Mishum Belazar, Reb Shimon, Amr Lem HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yisrael, the Eibishter said to the Yidden, Banai, my children, Livu Alai, you can loan upon me, lend upon me, loan upon me, V'kidshu Kedushas Hayom, and make the holiness of the day holy, Ve'aminu bi v'ani poreh, and believe in me, and I will pay you back. Right? Livu Alai. If you have to borrow money or whatever it is, whatever your expenses are for Shabbos and Yom Tov, the Eibishter will make sure that that money is paid back to you, as we're actually going to see in a little bit. I wonder if we should even I wonder if we should actually go weiter until there. Maybe let's go weiter until there. Okay, so let's go weiter for now. But maybe this is just like a good continuation. Maybe we'll go a shtickle onto Tezayin. It means a little bit more today, but a little bit less tomorrow, and it's sort of a nice, beautiful flow over here. So, Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Belazar, Reb Shimon, says Rabbi Yochanan, the name of Rabbi Belazar, Reb Shimon, I wrote, if a fellow wants that his property, that his real estate should prosper and be successful, and he should hold on to it, Yita boy odor. He should plant in his property this tree that's called an odor. It's a very fancy tree, and because it's so fancy, people are going to associate that tree and by association the field with you, and that way everybody will know, oh, this is Reuven's field. And if Reuven has to go on a trip somewhere, everyone still knows that this is Reuven's field, and nobody's just going to come and chop it. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, Odr b'marum Hashem, that this Odr, like this tree of the other tree, so it kind of makes it very fancy. It makes it that people know that it's yours. It's very strong. Inami, or else Idra Kishmei, or it's Idra like its name. Kedami Inche, as people say, my Idra dekaim the dari. That what's this Idra? That this tree goes for all generations. That it kind of keeps it in the family. Taninami Yachi, we also learned in a Beitzah like this. Sadashesh ba'adr, a field that has this other tree, in an exelis v'in nechmeses, is not going to be stolen, is not going to be chapt. How do you say chapt? Chapt. It's not going to be chapt. It's not going to be. They're not going to come and chop it. And then basically, what chamas is, it's when you chop something and then you give and then you pay the guy, right? So let's say you chop somebody's iPhone and then you give him, I don't know, $700 or whatever it is. So kilu. You can't do that even though you're paying him. So that's what Hamas is. And if in a field that has an other tree, its fruits are going to be guarded and gishmak. So okay, plant the other tree and tell us all about it. Let's go weiter. Tanya of Tachlifa Achbad Ravnoi Choza. So says Rav Tachlifa, the brother of Rav Nai Choza. And we're going to go shtickle weiter on Tazayin, just because it's a nice flow over here that we started with this Levu Olai, that lend on me, on my account, says God, for Shabbos and Yom Tov, and I'll pay you back. So all of the person's parnasa, how much money he's going to make that year, is decided on Rosh Hashanah, and that's it. If it's decided that you're going to make $100 that year, so you're going to make $100. That's it. That's not going to change. However, chutz me'otzas Shabbosos v'otzas Yom Tov, the exception being the expenses of Shabbos and Yom Tov, v'otzas banav l'talmud Torah, as well as tuition for your children to study Torah. Shem piches pochas in lo, that if you spent a little bit of money on it, so we'll give you a little bit of money to cover the expenses. V'mosif mosifin lo, and if you paid a lot of money for it, well then we'll have to give you a lot of money in order to cover whatever expenses you have for Shabbos and Yom Tov and sending your children to yeshiva. Amar Babo says, Babo Mikra, what is the pasuk? Where do we see in this a pasuk that says that on Rosh Hashanah your parnos is set for you? Tiku b'chod shofar b'keselim chagenu, that you'll blow on the shofar, on the ram's horn, on the month. B'keselim chagenu ezu chag shachodesh miskasebo. What is the festival that the moon is bakese, is miskase, is covered up on? Haviyom is Rosh Hashanah. That's Rosh Hashanah, because Rosh Hashanah, of course, is the first day of the month, and the moon is hidden, right? It's you don't see it. Uchsiv, and the pasuk says, "Ki chok liYisrael hu mishpat Elokei Yaakov," that it's a chok for the Yidden. So my mashmedai chok lishna debzoni. How do you know that chok means food, parnasa? The Chsiv is the pasuk says, "V'achlas chukam ashenosum lemparo." It says by Yosef in Mitzrayim that the Egyptians would eat the chukam. They're like portions that they were given from Paro. Mar Zutra Amar Me'acha, says Mar Zutra from Mira Chifeni lechem chuki, that you will feed me my bread of my chuki, which is a sustenance, which is parnosa. Tanya, we learned in a Beitzah. Starting in Beitzah, Amru Olav al Shamei Azakin, that they said about Shamei Azakin, Kol Yom Avayu Ochel L'chvod Shabbos. That Shamei Azakin would always, when he would eat for Shabbos. What does that mean? Motza behema no. If he found a good geshmake looking behema, an animal, Omer, he would say, Zo le Shabbos. This geshmake looking behema, this is going to be for Shabbos. Motza acheres noimena. But then, if he finds another behema that's even more geshmak than the original geshmak one, but this one's more geshmak, so maneach es ashniya, so he leaves the second one, ve'ochel es harishona, and he goes back and eats the first one. So we see that memele, when he eats the first one, he's davke eating the first one only because he found the second one that looks even better than it. So memele, by eating the first one, he's ki'ilu leaving over the even better one. So he's ki'ilu eating with the intention of Shabbos already from the entire week. But Hillel Azakin had a different mahalach. Shekol ma'asav l'shem shamayim. All of his activities, all of his actions were for God. Shenemar, as the Apostle says, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom, that I will bless, that God is blessed every single day, meaning that what he would do, he had a shtickle different way of doing things that he wouldn't necessarily say, oh, let me save this for Shabbos. He would just have so much confidence that he would have the most geshmake animal for Shabbos. It's not like he was living in this space where it's like, wow, I don't know if I'm going to get an even more geshmake animal, so let me hold on to this one because I might not get a better one. No, he was in a mindset where it's like, Memele, I'm going to get a gewaldige animal for Yom Tov, so he wouldn't even say, oh, let me save it for Shabbos, for Yom Tov. He wouldn't say, let me save it. Rather, he would just have confidence that God's going to send him an absolutely geshmake animal for Shabbos. We also in a brayz like this, that already from the beginning of the week, from already Sunday, you should be preparing and have in mind Shabbos. Whereas Beis Hillel says, blessed is God every single day. So lemaise, that Beis Hillel was about just having confidence that God is going to give me whatever I need. Very, very interesting stuff. Friends, that was Daf Tes Vav of Masechta Beitzah. So on Daf Tes Vav, in the first Amud, we finished up the first Perek of Masechta Beitzah, discussing the things that you are and aren't allowed to send to your to people on Yom Tov. One interesting thing that we said is that you're allowed to send tavshilin on Yom Tov because you're able to, they're not necessarily muktzah, right? Even if something that you can use during the week. It's something usable as is, and even if you do wear it on Yom Tov, it's not necessarily an isser that you're doing. So you can send that to your friend on Yom Tov. And we learned the halacha that if you're wearing your tefillin and it becomes Shabbos, so depending on so the first option would be to leave it when you get into the city. So first cover up the tefillin. You don't have to take them off, but cover them up until you get into the city. The better option would be to leave them in the first house that you get to when you're in the city. But if you're worried that they can get stolen over there, so then you can bring it all the way to your house. Then we started the new Perek, the second Perek of Masechta Beitzah, which discusses Eruvey tavshilin, which is super interesting. And Eruvey tavshilin is that already from before, when you have Yom Tov on a Friday, and then of course followed by Shabbos, so you want to be able to cook on Yom Tov for Shabbos, on Friday, on Yom Tov for Shabbos. So what you do is you put together an Eruvey tavshilin, which is that you prepare some food on Thursday, already before Yom Tov starts. And once already you started preparing this food on Thursday, you can continue cooking on Friday, on Yom Tov for Shabbos. And we saw essentially two different opinions about how this works. We saw the opinion of Rava, which is, well, we want to make sure that you leave space for Shabbos, that you don't get so involved in preparing for Yom Tov that you forget about Shabbos. So therefore already we want you thinking about it already from Thursday, that already from Thursday you're preparing something for Shabbos so that it's top of mind. Whereas Rav Ashi says that what it's about is actually dafka making sure that you give proper thought and respect and space to Yom Tov. That if you're cooking all day on Yom Tov for Shabbos, what is that? What idea does that? What kind of respect does that give to Yom Tov? So therefore, we kind of what we do is we prepare already from before Yom Tov food. So it's not like I'm starting to cook now and spending my whole day on Thursday preparing for Shabbos. I'm sorry, not like I'm spending my whole day on Friday on Yom Tov preparing for Shabbos. Rather, I already started preparing already from Thursday, from before Yom Tov. And now I'm just sort of continuing. It's not as significant as getting the ball rolling already on Yom Tov for Shabbos, but rather you're just continuing what you already really started the day before, and now you're just kind of wrapping things up, so to speak, for Shabbos. And according to Rav Ashi, the goal being to make sure that you give proper respect and space to Yom Tov and not step on Yom Tov's toes. We then got to very interesting machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. It started off, the discussion got kicked off with a story where Rabbi Eliezer was giving a shir and people were leaving the shir in order to go eat. And he said, I don't understand, why are they going to go eat their Yom Tov Suda when they're in the middle of learning? And we said, well, isn't it a mitzvah to eat your Yom Tov Suda? To which we said, actually, it's a machlokas between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Eliezer's perspective is that, the pasuk says, on the one hand, atzeres tiyeh lachem, on the other hand, we have atzeres Hashem Elokecha. Is it for you or is it for God? So Rabbi Eliezer says, look, either you choose to make it all for you, or you choose to make it all for God. And therefore, all for you means you eat and drink all day. All for God means that you learn all day. So therefore, Memele, if these people are coming to the shir, they shouldn't be leaving a shir in order to go eat. Do the shir thing, do the learning thing. Memele, when the shir was over, he said to the students, look, now go home and enjoy. But you wouldn't be leaving a shir in order to dafka make a point of going to eat, because if you're doing right, for God, so do it out of sof. Whereas Rabbi Yeshua says, no, Memele, what you do is you divide it in half. Half of it is for God, and half of it is for you. Half of it is studying Torah, half of it is eating and enjoying yourself. And then we got into some very interesting Gemaras about Levu Olai, Vani Pareya, right? The Vani Pareya, right? You could take out, any money that you spend on Shabbos and Yom Tiv, the Eibishter is going to pay you back, and that whatever parnaseh, however much money a fellow is going to make for the entire year is set on Rosh Hashanah, but that doesn't take into account whatever money he's going to be spending on Shabbos and Yom Tiv and on his children's Torah studies. So those things, no matter, whatever your expenses, whatever you pay, you're going to get, the God's going to make sure you can afford it. And then finally we saw that Shammai, right, how Shammai and Hillel would relate to Shabbos throughout the week, that Shammai, every time he would see something, he would say, wow, this is going to be for Shabbos. And when he would find something better than that, he would then eat the original thing and then keep the one that was better. And always he was holding on to the best things from Shabbos already from the beginning of the week. Whereas Hillel would just have in mind, like, look, I know that God is going to send me the most amazing things for Shabbos, and he wouldn't necessarily spend the whole week preparing for Shabbos because he knew that God was going to make sure that he had whatever he needed, that he had the best stuff for Shabbos. Friends, that was Daf Tesvav Masechta Beitzah. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day. Peace out.